And that's really what generates good performance because your body needs a solid base of aerobic fitness, of low intensity fitness, which is very easy for people to go and do. But the hard part about it is that you have to hold yourself back. So you've got to check your ego at the door in so many workouts that people tend not to do it.
You are listening to the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast with your host, Eric Logan. No Gimmicks, Just Sweat is dedicated to hearing the journeys and unique stories behind an athlete's training and what drives them. Get inspired to own your life and make the impossible possible. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Also, please take a few seconds to rate the show and drop me a review. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of No Gimmicks, Just Sweat. And today, if you've heard the term Trainiacs, if you've heard the term motivators, then you will know today's guest. It is triathlete, author, blogger, podcaster. He has many hats. It is Taren Gesell. Taren, how are you doing?
I'm good, Eric. You yourself are a motivator with our kit there. So you're in on that group.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me here. This is interesting. Of course, we've talked off air quite a bit over the last few months, so it's an honor to be on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, it's an honor, for you to be here, for me to have you and to be able to talk to you, on this level. All right. So as we start with every show, we kind of start with an icebreaker. And this kind of warm you up, kind of get you ready, and just kind of, let the listeners kind of get a good idea of who you are. All right. You ready?
Ready.
All right. Morning training or evening training?
Morning. Hard morning training. If it happens after 4 o'clock on my schedule, it doesn't happen at all. I am a get things done during the morning and the day kind of person.
Awesome. All right. Cardio or strength training?
Well, that's changed over the last few years. It started as strength training 14, 15 years ago, then went hard into cardio. And now, as what happens with a lot of elite athletes, cardio is going away because I'm not really racing and then trying to piece my body back together with strength.
Okay. All right. Run on a treadmill or run outside?
Outside, no question.
All right. Open water swim or swim in a pool?
Ooh, that's a good question. Open water. Let's go with open water. That feels very adventurous to me. And it's like being connected to nature. However, if it's a workout, if I want to go in and get a workout in a pool.
Okay. All right. Ride inside with or without Zwift?
With Zwift. And this is coming from somebody in Canada. So I am a connoisseur of riding inside Zwift.
All right. What's your favorite segment in a triathlon? The swim, bike, or run?
The bike, for sure. I was pretty equal across all different sports in my placing relative to everyone else in the age group and across the race. So I didn't have any real standout performances one way or another that I would just dominate in one or not do well in another. But I would actually hold back a bit on the bike so that I could have a good run. Because the bike is where I was kind of talented. So I could hold back and still be quite competitive on the bike.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite race? Sprint, Olympic, or long course?
Long course, half Ironman. It's just long enough that you have a lot of decisions to make and a really complex training puzzle to figure out. But it's short enough that it was easy to fit into regular life where I didn't have to do 14, 15, 16-hour weeks. I could do a 10-hour week and still be fairly competitive.
Okay. All right. What's the first thing you do after a race?
I eat a lot of junk food. A lot of junk food.
Well, what's your go-to?
It's usually gummy bears. Like gummy
Really?
something. It's always gummy something for me. That is my if you're on a desert island and nutrient value doesn't matter and you can only eat one thing for the rest of your life, gummy bears, licorice, something like sweets. I'm a sweets kind of person.
That's interesting. Most people usually, say a burger or, pizza or tacos or something. Gummy,
Well, the
that's
burger
different.
comes later in the day.
All right. What's your dream race to participate in?
Well, Kona was really the only thing that was still on my bucket list when I stopped racing that I didn't get to compete in. That would be one of them. But now it's more something like a long bike packing tour or a gravel bike race, something like that through the mountains.
Okay. All right. If you can go on a run, a bike ride, or train with any celebrity or athlete, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Whew, 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 whew. That's always a question that I'm never really that good at. I honestly don't really have an answer because I tend not to look up to a whole lot of people as idols. More what I always looked up to was a future version of myself. So
Okay.
whether
Okay.
it's business or athletics, as opposed to aspiring to be, say, like Lionel Sanders or swim like Lucy or run like Patrick Longa, I was always much more focused on being the person that I thought I could be 3 months down the road if I had put in good training. So I've never had a great answer for that one when people ask because it's just not something that I've been a big. I've never really resonated with like having a picture of an idol on my wall in a gym or anything like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's the first time nobody's ever really answered that. But
Yeah, and I've been asked that about a lot of things, like who would you sit down with for a business lunch or anything like that, and rarely
right.
do I have an answer.
Interesting. Yeah. See, you learn something new every time. See, that's why I love doing this. I learn something new about people. Dig deep. All right, last one. All right, what's a dream location anywhere in the world you want to go for a run or a bike ride?
The place that I'm really thinking about going right now is the Algarve in Portugal. It's the very southern end of Portugal on the Mediterranean. Never
Oh,
been
okay.
there. Here
Never
it's
been there.
beautiful. Anywhere that they talk about something that's like the California of dot 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 of a certain place, those are places that I like to be because California has become very, very busy, and I'm not a big fan of traffic and driving around and being stuck in the car. But places around the world where they're like, it's the California of Europe or the California of Canada, those are places that I really want to explore. And Portugal is the one that I really want to see what it's like right now.
Okay. Okay. As I love getting those answers because it makes me go back and Google these places to kind of look at them and go,
That could be a very expensive question for you if you have to start going and checking out these places.
all right. What is your story? How did your journey to becoming a triathlete begin? Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody has that origin story. So share yours with it.
Well, a lot of people look at a lot of the races that I have and think that it started out like I had a lot of talent. So I was never a professional triathlete at the end, but I was fairly competitive. I would finish, say, top 20 or top 15 in an international half Ironman race, or maybe top five in a smaller international race for the age groupers, not as a pro or anything like that. But I got fairly competitive. So I think a lot of people might have expected that I came from a sporting background with the potential to become elite, but it was very, very far from that. I was quite overweight in my late teens and early 20s just from very bad habits of drinking a lot and eating out. And I got up to 215 pounds. And as a 5'8" person, that's not a very good look. Really overweight and very unhealthy. And I eventually lost a little bit of weight from bodybuilding techniques like eating boiled chicken breast and lifting weights and walking on stair climbers a few times a week, but the weight loss never stuck. And in my mid 20s, I got hurt from some of the lifting that I was doing, and I couldn't do any more bodybuilding training. So I just started walking on a treadmill one day. And that got kind of boring. So then I intermixed walk on a treadmill one day and then bike on a stationary bike the next day. And then after a few weeks, that got kind of boring. So then I thought, hey, maybe I'll try swimming. And after a few weeks of swimming and walking and biking, all in the stationary equipment that was in the gym, I thought, hey, I wonder if I could do a triathlon. And I couldn't continuously run the length of a house. I couldn't bike more than about 20 minutes at a time, and I couldn't swim to the end of the pool. And that's where it started. So, just like everyone else who starts, I didn't have any sort of background in endurance sports. I had to learn it from absolute scratch. So, when people talk about, wow, I'd love to do a triathlon or a trail run or a big race and take on a goal, and they doubt themselves, I get it. I get what it's like to doubt yourself and not know if you can actually take on that goal. But over the years, I figured out how to do it, how to overcome all of those really common challenges that everyone goes through and get to the point where you are your best version of yourself. Um, because I started at that absolute square zero, not even square one, like square zero is where I started.
Okay. So you were never an athlete in school, or anything?
I was a golfer. I was
Oh,
a
okay. Interesting.
curler. I was a world ranked curler up to about 15th ranked in the world curling. But curling is not a sport that back then was for healthy people. That was for the people who wanted to go and drink and call themselves athletes. So that was me. Yeah, I was the stereotypical curler where you get off the ice and sign a few autographs and take off your microphone and hand it back to the TV crew and then go to the bar for 14 beers. Like that's not really an athletic background.
Okay. And the reason why I ask, because when you kind of see, you know, endurance athletes that are high performers and stuff, there's that automatic assumption that, they were a runner, they were some type of athlete in high school or college.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I wasn't oblivious to what it took to become successful in a sport, even though it was a not very athletic sport at the time. Curling taught me that if you worked diligently at something and intentionally at something, you could become successful at it. And that goes for business or athletics or losing weight or putting on muscle or whatever it might be. Following a process of continuous improvement can over years get you to heights that you never would have expected that you could possibly reach. And curling taught me that. I had never actually done it in, say, peak athletics at that time. So, yeah, I sort of knew the path that I needed to take, but I didn't really know the exact steps because I wasn't familiar with running or cycling or swimming or anything like that.
Okay. So as a triathlete, you started seeing success, competing in races, um, and then training. So from a training aspect, what does a week of training for you look like, and how does that compare to when you first started to now?
It's evolved a lot. When I first started, I didn't see success for about 3 years because I was training very haphazardly, like a lot of people do, because understanding how to put together a good training plan is quite difficult. So I would wake up and I'd do really whatever I felt like, thinking that that was going to get me towards some better performance. And it really didn't. I got a little bit more comfortable with swimming, biking, and running, but I was quite unexceptional. I was like a 125 sprint athlete, a 3 hour Olympic distance athlete, and couldn't even imagine doing a half Ironman. And then I started learning about good training techniques. And for the bulk of my racing career, what I would do is Monday and Friday were very light days, a very light swim or a light bike ride to kind of bookend the weekend. The weekend would be long bikes and long runs at very low intensity so that I could build the endurance to complete the sport, the distance of the race that I was training for. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were the intense days because I had a lot less time to do long training on those days. That was when I did the shorter workouts that were very intense. Now, um, I'm more back to exercising because I'm not racing at all right now. I use those principles of how to get an effective workout out of a workout with the right intensity and the right duration of intervals and making sure that I'm rested. But because I don't really have a race in mind for the next year at least, a lot of what I'm doing is very strength focused. And it's about an hour a day of what athletes would call exercise and not necessarily training for anything in particular because I don't really have anything in particular right now.
Okay. And I know you're a coach now, but before you kind of transitioned into being a coach, did you have a coach or a trainer that you worked with?
I had 2 seasons where I worked with coaches. One season, it really didn't work out. It was a very talented athlete and a friend of mine, but followed very traditional methods where every single workout was a workout. It was really challenging. It was really difficult. I had to psych myself up for basically every single workout, every single time I laced up my shoes or put on a Speedo. It was difficult and that didn't work for me. And that's where I first started realizing that the traditional way of hiring a coach and that coach gives you hard workouts every single workout, that doesn't work for a lot of people, especially people with stressful day jobs and busy family lives and regular commitments. And the second coach that I had was actually absolutely fantastic. He was himself a very elite athlete. He was an exercise physiologist. He coached a lot of professional athletes, and somehow I convinced him to take me on. And that's when I actually realized that the body's physiology doesn't really want or need a lot of hard workouts. It's actually much of the time, like 75, 80% of the time that I spent training was at a super low intensity levels that people would look at on Strava and go like, geez, this guy's just going out for hobby jogs and hobby bike rides. And then somehow he shows up at a race and finishes 12th. Like, how is this happening? And
Right.
it's just because I had to learn that physiologically, the body responds very well to low intensity exercise and then occasionally dipping into high intensity exercise, but only at the right time in very short bursts.
Right. And like you were saying, is that you see a lot of people that are going hard, going hard, going hard. And like you were saying that, you have some people that kind of go easy and they still perform high at a race, as well as you have some, or at the same time they have a equal level of a performance as someone that's going super hard.
Yeah, yeah. My very last year of competing, I used to get all kinds of comments online from people saying, I look at his Strava and I see what training he's doing, and there's absolutely no way that he's doing that. He must be cheating. And he's very well known on YouTube. So, of course, he drafted off of the motorcycle or he cut the course. And really, all it was is that no, I was doing a lot of low intensity training. So, my aerobic system was really finely tuned. So, these long races like half Ironmans and Ironmans, where you're going at a very sub maximal level for the entire race, I was able to hold that. I was able to hold that moderately fast pace for the entire race, not slow down, and just execute a good race. And that's really what generates good performance because your body needs a solid base of aerobic fitness, of low intensity fitness, which is very easy for people to go and do. But the hard part about it is that you have to hold yourself back. So you've got to check your ego at the door in so many workouts that people tend not to do it.
Right. And I kind of snicker a little bit because, when you said that people looked at your Strava and there's no way he can do that because his times are this and his times this. That actually happened to me once. But someone's like, well, no, I looked at his times on Strava. There's no way he ran, that time during a race. And I'm like, I did.
Yeah. And which would you rather be? Would you rather be the athlete that wins the race or the athlete that wins training? And there's so many athletes that train to win training and not train to actually reach their goal in a race.
Right. So then that brings me to, you sharing that information out. You're the author of a book, and then you also are a YouTube personality, if you're okay with that term, because
Yeah.
you say YouTube personality. Some people are like, well, no, I'm a YouTube star.
No, you got to call it something. I think they're all I'm still a little bit maybe shy or embarrassed about whatever people call it, but we've got to call it something. Yeah. Call it whatever you want.
Right. So what led you to do that? Because I think, you kind of just said, you know what, this is what I want to do, with, my life and as a career. So, what spurred that on?
I actually started it as a hobby. It was 7.5 years ago that I published my first YouTube video. And at the time, I was an investment advisor and I wasn't very happy with it. I went to business school, and like a lot of people in my late 20s, I was kind of trying to find what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was moderately successful as an investment advisor, but not very happy. And I needed some sort of creative outlet. And what I had done to build up the little practice that I had as an investment advisor was I made marketing videos. And I really liked making those videos. I liked the creative process of it. But I wasn't allowed to make very many marketing videos because the industry was so heavily regulated that I wasn't allowed by my bosses and the compliance officers at the work. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make more videos, and I'm going to make them about something that is completely unrelated to work so they can't tell me what to do. And I thought, when was I happiest? So what would I actually make videos about? And when I was happiest was when I was challenging myself training and racing endurance sports. So I just started sharing some of the tips that I had learned up to that point in these videos, and people started watching it. And what I found was the vast majority of the people at the start line are ignored by the media. There wasn't really any information for people that were just starting, real people who just wanted to be their best version of themselves. So we're talking to regular folks about things that nobody else in the media was talking about, like you don't wear underwear under your bicycle shorts. Here's how you breathe in the water when you're learning to swim. Here's how you can start building some sort of bike fitness with just 2 workouts a week. And up to that point, the entire endurance media landscape was filled with, all right, here's what the pros are doing. Therefore, all of us age groupers and real people with 40 to 60 hour a week jobs should learn from this, and just go and suck it up if you don't have 20 hours a week to train. And I started coming out saying, like, no, here's how you train as a regular person. And look, it works. And people really latched onto it because up until that point, they'd been ignored. And fact of the matter is that about 70 to 80% of people who come up to a start line aren't looking to be elite. They're just looking to be their best version of themselves. And that looks different to everyone. So just give people the tools to be their best version of themselves and not look down at them for not being elite or not knowing everything right away or not being able to put in 20-hour training weeks. And that's what we've always looked at creating with our YouTube videos, our podcasts, our books, and now our app.
Okay. And that's how I discovered you, because once I started doing, duathlons, yes, duathlons don't get the same level of attention and coverage as triathlons, uh, but a lot of things that you can find online related to triathlons can also relate to duathlons. And and that's how I kind of discovered you in the beginning. As I was kind of learning more, learning how to train properly and how to prepare for races. But one thing I did notice is that when I first discovered you, it was very much Trainiacs, and then in recent years, it's turned into motivators, and it's a complete shift in things. Can you explain why you made that shift?
Yeah, so Trainiacs was a term that I coined for people who followed me, and specifically like me. They followed Taren and followed Taren's training and my racing and my training advice. And over the course of COVID, I realized, you know what? There's more to this sport than just me. And there are so many other people out there that are creating content like you and so many people that have YouTube channels and podcasts and a lot of people who are also creating their own journeys. And I thought that having a brand as opposed to a person would allow us to start featuring more people's voices, more people who are ambassadors of us, more coaches, more different types of information. Like, for example, I can't give information about the best jogging bras to buy because I just don't know it.
Right,
So,
right.
when everything was under my name, my brand, my followers, it would be very hard to branch beyond the very stereotypical person who shows up to a race, a 30 to 40 something year old white male. And that's what I was. But MōTTIV, as a brand that stands for real people who want to do amazing things, is a platform that can allow people from all different backgrounds, all different knowledge bases, all different socioeconomic statuses, all different incomes, just allow us to actually show everyone that's in the sport. And in doing that, I think it'll inspire more people to get into the sport because everyone can find the information and the role models that they want to find. So that's how MōTTIV came around. And we just had to make the break where Trainiacs was, I think, so associated with me that we wanted something to be associated with real people doing amazing things. And that's what MōTTIV stands for. So now with MōTTIV, we have ambassadors, we have coaches, we have volunteers that air quotes work for our company just because they believe in what we're doing. We have people like you who are willing to share the message that hey, everyone can do this and it doesn't matter what your background is. And that's more powerful than just me saying that you could do this.
Okay. And it is, a lot of people, you know, want, they have that curiosity of being in the sport, whether it's triathlons, whether it's duathlons. I mean, even when you kind of get into, we were talking earlier before the show, trail running and, ultra running, they want to get into that. But, a lot of times we don't see, you know, not only people that look like us, but, kind of, just kind of, ways to enter into those things. Um,
Yeah.
what are ways that you think that can help, bridge the gap and kind of break down some of those barriers into, just endurance sports in general?
I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you what we're trying to do is what we're trying to do with MōTTIV is have a lot of ambassadors that are relatable people. So there's no quotas with our ambassadors. There's no specific type of person that we're looking for with our ambassadors. What we're just looking for is people who have a voice, that are willing to put themselves out there and willing to say, you know what, I'm a real person with challenges, and I wasn't confident at this when I started, but I worked at it. And I'm willing to continue working at it. And look, hey, I was able to do it. And the only real must that we have with our ambassadors is there has to be something about them that's relatable, that other people can look and go, you know what, that's a real person. Like that's somebody who has had difficulties and maybe their confidence or their physical abilities, and they doubted themselves at a time, but look, they're doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
what we're trying to do is give a bigger voice to them by creating reels on Instagram with them, creating podcasts with them, allowing them to blog on our website, creating YouTube videos where for years it was just me in the videos, but now we start showing all of these different people in our videos. And what I think it starts showing and creating this message is that, hey, everyone can do this. Look at all of these people who are all doing it. And it's not just the people that look like Lucy Charles or Lionel Sanders or Jan Frodeno, like these superheroes that are absolute mutants with how talented they are. No, regular people can do this too. And that's what we're trying to do, that I think can be impactful in the industry. And like business wise, the thing that we're trying to offer the world is an affordable training plan where for years, really the only way that it was thought that people could get excellent training was to hire a one-on-one coach. Well, let's face it, that costs $3,000 a year. Most people don't have that kind of money to throw at a one-on-one coach.
Right.
And we want to make it easy for people to be able to get that training plan that says, you know what, you can do this. All you have to do is follow this plan that meets you with your capabilities. Pay $15 a month, not $200 a month to a one-on-one coach, and you can do this. The only thing you've got to do is have the confidence to get up and work a little bit every single day.
Yes, yes. And that's very, like I say, it's very simple, very positive. And I think that if a lot of people kind of realize that like you were saying, you don't have to go out and pay $200, for a coach, to just get you across the finish line, to compete and get you across the finish line, that you can do it on your own with just a little help. I think we have more people that kind of realize that they have the capabilities to do that. That speaks wonders. That speaks, volumes, to people in general.
Yeah, the thing that I saw this weekend was we had a big influx of footage, video footage that was sent to us by a lot of ambassadors and people who have our brand's gear. So they're in our MōTTIV kit. So they've sent in a lot of video footage that's going to be used in our reels and our YouTube videos. And I tell you, Eric, like it just hit me in all the feels. Like it got me emotional because I'm looking at it going, you know what? The world right now is focused on Ironman Kona, the World Championships in Hawaii, which is great. It's what gets people into the sport, but all of the media content is focused on the absolute elite freaks of nature that are at the very fastest end of the field, like the top 10 athletes, and almost nobody else.
Right.
And the message that I hear is, hey, these should be your heroes. These insanely talented people should be your heroes. And as I was editing the footage of all these real people that were all pushing for their own version of amazing, I thought, no, you can be your own hero. You know who's your hero? You. Going back to what I said about who I'd want to go for a bike ride with, I think people should aspire to be a better version of themselves and look up to that person, look up to themselves and see what they're capable of, not focus on other people, be their own hero. And I think that a lot of people can do that. And that's really empowering if they'd be able to.
Yes. Yeah, that's a mic drop right there. I'm just going to drop the mic on that for you.
That felt good as I was saying it. Did it sound good? It felt good, Eric.
Yes, yes. All right. Let's kind of go back to when you were, racing regularly. And I want you to kind of think about this as a two-part question. You know, think of your proudest moment as a triathlete. And then the second part of the question, I want you to think about your worst moment or the biggest mistake you've made as a triathlete.
Well, it might not be the answer that you're looking for. The proudest moment that I had as a triathlete was finishing some of my first couple races. They were my slowest races that I did in my entire 12-year career, but I was the most proud, the most emotionally touched and fulfilled by the 3-hour slowest Olympic distance race that I completed. That was a total disaster. I didn't know what I was doing, but that experience of not knowing if I could even complete the duration of the race and then being able to do it, that touched me. I had to walk into the porta potty off the finish line and cry because I was moved and very proud of what I did. And it wasn't actually the best performances that I had. So I think that's something that gets lost a little bit with people, that as soon as you start getting a little bit of success, it becomes more about, well, did I do a personal best? Did I go faster than the last time? Did I reach my A goal or my B goal? Or did I beat that other person that I wanted to beat? As opposed to remembering those first few races that we had, where it's just about, can I do this? Can I be a better version of myself? And so much of the time, I think people have more enjoyment and more fulfillment from those first few races that might be the slow ones. So I think it's important to recognize that, because that's what I remember is those first few races. The biggest disaster that I had was, um, it was there were a couple, and it was all kind of the same thing. One was when I was doing sort of it was a distance in between Olympic and a half Ironman. And you know how they say, don't do anything new on race day? Well, I did something new on race day, and I paid for it. The night before the race, I saw, wow, it's going to be really windy on the course. Okay, I'm going to lower the stem on the front of my bike by as much as I can so I can get under the air and I can be really aerodynamic. And sure enough, it worked. I hopped off the bike, and I think I was in the lead of the overall race in that distance. But then I cramped for 11 kilometers on the entire
Ooh.
run because I was so scrunched up into that position
Oh,
that my
wow.
body was like, hey, look, not happening, bro. And yeah, so that was a lesson about not doing anything new on race day. And then about 5 years later, I did it again, and paced a run for the first quarter of a run faster than I'd ever done in training, thinking, hey, I'm feeling great. And then paid for it for the final 3 quarters of the run.
Okay. Okay. All right. If you could go back in a time machine, what would you tell your younger self based upon everything that you know now?
Athletically, what I would say is right from the start, get a training plan that is probably less intense than you think. The reason being that at the outset, when I started seeing some success, I was following that mindset of every single day has to be a bit of a workout. It's got to be hard, it's got to be challenging. And I started getting faster. But what happened was, over the course of about 4 years, injuries just kept popping up, a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, until the point at which the last 3 or 4 years of my entire endurance career, I was pretty beat up and I'd be battling injuries and little bits of illness. And I think that had I not done that intense training for 4 years at the outset, I still would have actually progressed if I had just done proper training as opposed to really hard training, because you throw any sort of training at people who are just at the start of their endurance career and they're going to progress. But do you want to progress in a way that's healthy or unhealthy? And I wish I had gone down the path of healthy, because what it probably would have meant is I would have had more years of being able to be at peak performance. Because really what happened was, I got some success, got faster, but started showing some cracks in the armor after about 5 or 6 years. And then I had about 2 or 3 years that I could hang in there and still perform very well. And then when COVID hit, add stress onto the fact that the cracks in the armor were coming. And then I just couldn't hold peak performance for very long, much longer than a week or two. And then it became a timing issue. Like, am I getting the week or two right? And relative to most other people, I could still go and train the house down and do quite well in a race. But just relative to what I think I could have got to, I think I might have cut my longevity shorter than it needed to be by having those first few really hard training seasons.
Okay. Okay. All right. So what is a non-athletic fact about you that most people don't know?
That most people don't know? Usually I go back to the curling thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, but you said non-athletic.
Right.
Okay, non-athletic, I am a huge Marvel fan.
Oh,
Crazy
okay.
Marvel fan. Like, every year for the last 3 years, my wife and I have watched all of the Marvel movies that were out by that time in chronological order. So
Oh, wow.
we're talking like 3 to 5 weeks, depending on how quickly we can get through it, of dedicated Marvel time. And then throughout the entire rest of the year, I'm looking at YouTube fan theories of Marvel and like previews of the next Marvel movie, and then the Reddit threads of the next Marvel movie, and then which Marvel character was better in the comics. So like, yeah, huge Marvel fan.
Okay. Well, see, that's one thing. That's why we see eye to eye on things. Marvel.
Oh yeah. Ooh, okay. Which one is your favorite? Which movie is your favorite?
You know, I'm going back to Iron Man. That's what started it all.
The original, that one was
Yep.
so good.
You and at the time, because I'm also a comic fan, Iron Man wasn't a popular comic. It actually was a terrible book.
Yeah, he was like a B-level comic book character.
Right. And that movie just made you look at him in an entirely different light.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, follow-up question. What do you think about Marvel today? Like the last couple years of Marvel? I'm sure people tuning in are like, look, guys, I didn't tune in for comic books and comic book movies. But they're gonna get it.
A few minutes. Once Endgame happened, it was kind of like, okay, what's next? This current phase, I've been kind of like, okay, what are you building up to? So, I think they got something coming. This is just a lull moment. And, I think that, within the next 2 years, once you really start kind of introducing some characters that people have been waiting for, let's kind of go into the whole Deadpool and Wolverine that was recently announced. I think once you kind of start getting into that, that'll bring that excitement back to Marvel.
Yeah, I hope so. My heart got broken by Thor: Love and Thunder, and then follow that up with She-Hulk. Oh, I'm like, what are they doing? They're breaking my heart. Everything I thought I knew about Marvel, they just don't even care anymore. But then they came out with the trailer for Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
Oh, does that look good? Holy smokes.
Yes. That I'm looking forward to. Definitely
that looks really good. Yeah.
So,
anyway, I know people aren't tuning in for this.
They had to have a commercial somewhere. This was the commercial.
Exactly. Yeah, sponsored by the MCU.
All right. So what's next for you? Are you training for anything specific, or you just training for you? Are you getting ready for anything? What's up? What's going on?
Training wise, there's not really a lot to talk about. Like I say, I do about 60 to 120 minutes, like 1 to 2 hours of working out in some fashion every single day. And that accounts for strength training and endurance training, and then even getting in the sauna or in the ocean for a cold plunge, like something health focused for an hour to 2 hours every single day, but it's just really exercise focused. The big thing that I've always believed creates progress and a sense of purpose in life is taking on challenges that scare you. And
Mhm.
in endurance sports, I got to the point that races didn't scare me anymore. I had done quite a number of half Ironmans. I had done two open water marathon swims. I had done an Ironman distance race. And it got to the point that I could guess my finish time within about 3 or 4 minutes, one way or the other. So it just wasn't scary anymore. It wasn't a big challenge. And the big challenge for me, the scary thing for me, which is still in endurance sports, is can I create a powerful business that helps other people get to their goals and reach their challenges and overcome their obstacles and really change the industry by making it way more affordable for people to get good, fun, motivating training for 15 bucks a month instead of 200 a month. And that's a really big challenge that I have scary moments every single day about how we're going to do this. So it's really the same mindset that I took to endurance sports. I'm just taking it to the business of endurance sports right now. And that's what I'm fulfilled by and challenged by and find purpose in right now is helping other people get to their race goals because I've already got to a lot of mine.
Okay. And that's something new to hear that, you just weren't scared anymore. So you were looking for something to scare you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think about the exciting moments that I have now. It's the wow, I'm scared about telling people about our ambassador program because what if nobody wants to actually be an ambassador? That's scary. And going out on a limb and saying that we are going to create an ambassador program was a scary moment. And then, wow, holy smokes, we have dozens of people like you who are DMing me saying, hey, I believe in this message that you're trying to put out in the world that anyone can reach their own version of an amazing challenge. How can I help? And that's like, yes, okay, that's just that same sort of motivating feeling that I used to get from a race. It's just helping other people get to races.
Okay. All right. So you got any last words you want to share with the listeners?
The only thing that I know for certain in life is that following your curiosity helps. Anytime that I have been challenged in life about what my purpose was or what could I be fulfilled by in life, the concept of following a passion or finding a purpose or doing something that scares you, it's very big and it's very intimidating. But what I have found that is consistent from one person to another is everyone has things that they're moderately curious about here or there. It might be doing a 5K running race or it might be starting a business. And if you just follow those curiosities, it can lead into purpose and lead into passion and lead into fulfillment without that big intimidating barrier of finding your purpose or your passion or your fulfillment right away. So follow your curiosities. And in a lot of cases, that makes it a lot more attainable for people to take those first few steps.
Okay. Taren, it was great talking to you. Thank you again for being a guest. Awesome conversation.
Thanks. We dropped a mic. We talked about MCU.
Hey,
This was
there you
good.
go.
We caught up. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Hey, so if people wanted to get in contact with you just in general or get in contact with about MōTTIV, how can they do so?
Our training app and our blog post is mymottiv.com. That's MYMOTTIV.com. And then if they're just people who are looking for some tips or more like the starting few steps of getting into endurance sports, YouTube, podcast, Instagram, everything can be found at MōTTIV. That's MOTTIV. And some of it is my MōTTIV, some of it is Taren's MōTTIV method. But if you search for that MOTTIV, and running or triathlon or cycling or anything like that will pop up.
Yeah, and I do recommend that if you're just starting out or you're looking to try to improve, definitely check out his videos. They were very helpful to me, and I mean, they're very straightforward, they're very simple, and at the same time, they're not just like you got to go out and do. You know, they really kind of educate you into being the best you can be.
Awesome. There are the times that people have to go out and do, but sometimes the do and the challenge is holding yourself back too. So we try to help give people some understanding of when it's time to go really hard and when the really hard thing is actually to hold yourself back a little bit, because you need both.
Yes. And again, Taren, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Eric. Lots of fun.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in each week. If you enjoyed today's show, please support us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to tell your friends about the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast, so we can continue to have awesome conversations with everyday athletes just like you. Until next time, have an amazing week.